Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, and today's sim update 16 dropped. Actually, yesterday it dropped. Today I'm reporting on it after I've flown around a little bit, giving you guys my feedback, some of the highlights to the changes, and some prerequisites before you update your sim if you haven't already that should help make things a bit smoother. So stick around. If you are interested in any of my tutorial guides for Microsoft Flight Simulator, or simply interested in supporting the channel, consider joining me on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides as well as any future guides that come down the road. Patreon link can be found in the description below. All right, folks, before we get into this, I want to make it very clear that, as always, when it comes to these updates, experiences absolutely vary. We know that Microsoft Flight Simulator has always been one of those ones where either you love it, you hate it, either it makes it great or it breaks the hell out of it. So keep this in mind that everything that I'm about to report on is my personal experience and what I have had happened since sim update 16, and some of you may be doing even better, some of you may be doing worse, and I hope that's obviously not the case, but that could be where we're at, so just keep that in mind. Next, something that comes up very commonly whenever we do these update videos is all of my hardware and all of my hardware is linked down in the description below. If you guys scroll to the bottom of the description, it will give you all of my PC specs. So if you guys are wondering about RAM, video card, etc., it's all down there. So first thing, before we get into the highlights of the update, let's talk about a few things that you'll want to do to keep it as smooth as possible. First up is your community folder. I always recommend either renaming or removing all of the items from the community folder. I do recommend renaming it. So you can literally right click on your community folder, click rename, and type anything you want. Usually what most of us do is do community.old, and that will change the file extension, and therefore when the sim starts up the next time, Microsoft Flight Simulator will automatically create a brand new community folder and a completely clean directory, and then you can re-add your items after the update has completed. This just helps to prevent any conflicts with any kind of add-ons, especially if they are outdated. And when I say outdated, I mean like significantly. That could potentially cause an issue with the sim. Remember, anything from scenery to aircraft to sound enhancements, all of those things are affected when you relaunch, and an update can absolutely cause those to break the sim. So that's the first one. Second, rolling cache. Make sure you delete all of your rolling cache after every sim update, because the cache files and generation files themselves can change with an update, which can affect performance, especially in the way of stuttering and graphic rendering. Now, keep in mind that once you delete your rolling cache files, your sim will absolutely take a little bit longer to load the first couple times that you load in. This is normal. Those cache files have to be re-downloaded and regenerated, but they are nice and clean, and they are the correct cache files for the version of the sim that you are using. Next, DLSS. If anyone uses DLSS Swapper or has changed their DLSS files, remember that with each sim update, those files are recreated and overwritten. So any changes, for example, if you have the latest version of DLSS 4 installed, you will need to use DLSS Swapper and install it yet again. Same thing with the NVIDIA app. Any of your NVIDIA changes will be reverted at the time that the sim updates to whatever the Microsoft Flight Simulator installation media changes it to. So any changes that you have applied, you will need to reapply those as well. I always recommend a reboot after a sim install. No, it is absolutely 100% not required, but it does. For me, it has made differences more than once. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but it has absolutely made a difference more than once. And again, you get that clean recreation of the files or of the loading. So with your tips and tricks out of the way, that's pretty much the big ones now. I don't really worry about shader cache much anymore. I haven't over the last couple updates. I don't think since sim update 13. However, if you want to go through that route, you certainly can. And for further enhancements, I also recommend, guys, anytime I do a performance video, I recommend you guys check out the YouTube channel Island Sim Pilot. He's a real world pilot who has dedicated a ridiculous amount of time to our community and to finding the best tweaks, whether it be NVIDIA Data or Microsoft Flight Simulator or Windows PC settings to absolutely increase your performance. He goes over a bunch of tools and add-ons that are performance based. So if you guys want a real deep dive channel on performance and getting the best performance out of your system, again, that YouTube channel is at Island Sim Pilot. Okay, I'll try to remember to put a description or a link to his channel down in the description below, but being the airhead that I can be, sometimes I forget. So with that in mind, now let's go ahead and get into the sim update itself. So with Sim Update 16, one of the things it highlights is stability and performance. Specifically mentioned is fixed or crash when attempting to reach some areas in the world, example being PEX TV tower. And then for Xbox Series users, they did an improved memory management for the Series and the X to improve its stability. Now let's talk about my overall experience with performance. Performance, I did know a little bit of a decrease. I ran some tests prior to updating, and I've seen about a 10 to 20 second decrease in the loading times, whether it be directly into the simulator itself or loading into the cockpit. So from the time you hit fly to the time that you are actually ready to start navigating your aircraft. So that was kind of a nice surprise, 10 to 15 seconds. Again, ballpark, this was over about a 5 load trial and 5 load repeat after I reloaded all the cache. My testing was done using Tucson International Airport. Obviously that's my hometown, so that's where I fly out of the most, especially as I'm trying to start practicing for my PPL and get some of the VFR stuff down. So with that in mind, stuttering, I did notice a reduction in stuttering in 2D. It is almost completely eliminated for me. However, in VR, for me, it was still very prominent. However, it is not game-breaking at all in virtual reality. It is just something that if you are specifically looking for it, I am still seeing it on occasion in virtual reality. Now, if I were to go to somewhere like Los Angeles and New York, I'm willing to bet that that would be significantly increased. So keep that in mind. World data. They aligned Bing Maps data with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. So anything that you see in 2024, as far as on the terrain, locations, VFR points, whatever it may be, you should now see in 2020. The scenery that is in 2024 is essentially now the same data that is in 2020. So that's a good thing. They fixed terraforming on TIN and changed the way the water body polygons work so that overlapping polygons of the same type no longer cancel each other. So the water should look significantly better and have a better transition animation. Nav data, they improved the handling of nav data for runways that do not exist in the sim. The resolution is now only done after all scenery layers are loaded and only transitions will be removed rather than the full procedures where possible. And they also fixed an issue where airports used as waypoints and instrument procedures contained a region code that prevented them from being loadable using the ICAO. Multiple aircraft enhancements. The couple that I'm going to cite here, the big one is the Cessna Citation Longitude received a heck of a large update, given that it's been a while since we've seen it really hit some major love like this. Nothing too crazy to point out. However, I do recommend you guys checking the changelog. I will have a link to that down in the description if you're very specific on wanting to know the details of it. But I will say that it definitely got some love, and we're going to be flying it later this week. The Cessna Citation Longitude is one of my favorite aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and by far, as thus far, now I have not flown the 10 yet, but the Longitude is my favorite of the private jets. Same with the TBM 930, got a couple of little pieces of love, nothing too crazy. Flight director fixes, as well as some FMS initialization flow adjustments and approach cues. Avionics G1000, G3000, 5000 received some pretty significant fixes, not so much as updates as bug fixes. Again, link to the changelog will be down in the description below. Same thing with the G3X Touch. The G3X Touch probably got one of the largest updates next to the Primus Epic 2.0. The Primus got the largest of the avionics update by far. So a lot of focus was done in Sim Update 16 in regard to the avionics. I would say all the avionics systems received significant love. You have the UNS 1EW, which I actually haven't used that one yet. The Primus, and then all of the Garmin series all received pretty significant updates, or fixes, I should say. I want to be careful using updates. There were no new features that I really saw, a couple here and there, but for the most part, lots of bug fixes, which is nice to see. Controls, a real quick highlight. Peripherals, they added support for the Honeycomb Aeronautical Alpha Lite. So if you have the Alpha Lights, Microsoft Flight Simulator now has native support for that particular control yoke. And for activities, they fixed an infinite loading when launching the Dune activity. So if you're real big into the Dune stuff, they have fixed it to make it work correctly now. So again, I want to stress that, guys, overall, the experience has been pretty damn good so far for me. Again, loading times were reduced. Performance in 2D was absolutely increased for me. I do run on full ultra settings now with the RTX 4080, running the 7900X3D as my processor with 64 gigs of DDR5 6000. So keeping that in mind, of course, always remember, if you guys load in, there's no way for me to go through all of my different add-ons, all the different tools and stuff that I have loaded in. So your performance could be significantly better than mine, or it could be significantly worse than mine. It really all depends. But this is why I will always tell you, anytime that you want to do a performance test, make sure that you remove everything from your community folder first. Then do your test prior to the update. Check it, do your testing, get your FPS counts, and then do your updates and run your tests again before adding anything from the community or to the community folder. The community folder is going to be a very significant impact to any kind of performance, guys. So also remember that too. If suddenly you have an issue that you haven't addressed before in the community folder, a sim update, it's breaking everything to hell, make sure that you don't just delete the community folder. Don't remove everything. Rename it. Let Microsoft Flight Simulator recreate the directory so you know it's completely clean. Even if you remove files out, guys, there's just, without going into too much detail, removing files from the community folder doesn't necessarily always fix whatever could be in the community folder. I know that may not make sense to some, but trust me, that's the case. Rename the community folder anytime that you want to do a complete new test and clean. That's the best way to do it. I hope Summit Update 16 works well for all of you, and you guys continue to enjoy the Microsoft Flight Simulator experience. As always, here on the channel, anything that is game breaking or changing, I will definitely be posting to you guys as new tips and tricks. And also, do not forget, for deep dives in performance and stabilization settings, make sure you guys check out the YouTube channel at Island Sim Pilot. And as always, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.